dengan Farm Fresh Choco Mall.
Good morning and welcome to Malaysia Business Insight, where we bring you in-depth analysis on the global business opportunities and strategic market. I'm Siti Norisa binti Mahizan, and our story today focuses on the international business evaluation. Should Farm Fresh expand its operation into Bolivia? To evaluate whether Bolivia is a suitable market for Farm Fresh, we begin by examining several key indicators that directly affect demand, affordability, and industry potential. Bolivia has a population of approximately 12 million, which suggests a moderate-sized market. And this means growth potential exists, but large-scale expansion may be limited compared to more populous markets. Bolivia's GDP of around 45 million USD indicates a developing economy with moderate consumers' purchasing power. This is particularly important for Farm Fresh, as dairy products are considered essential goods, but pricing must remain affordable to match local income levels. Also, the Bolivian dairy market primarily dominated by local producers focusing on staple products such as fresh milk and cheese. While this increases competition at the local level, it also highlights a lack of product variety and advanced processing, creating opportunity for Farm Fresh to differentiate itself through quality, consistency, and food safety standards. To explore the issue further, we are now joined by our panel to evaluate whether Bolivia is a suitable market for Farm Fresh to expand its operation. And now, joining us is Dr. Rita Aryani from Faculty of Economics in University Kebangsaan Malaysia. So, from a cross-cultural perspective, what cultural differences in Bolivia could pose a risk for Farm Fresh?
Thank you for the question. From cross-cultural risk perspective, Bolivia presents several risks that Farm Fresh should carefully consider. Firstly, consumer behavior risk. Bolivian consumption habits are different from Malaysia. Bolivian consumers tend to prefer locally produced traditional dairy products such as fresh milk and cheese, and there may be lower initial trust toward foreign brands. And in addition, business culture in Bolivia places strong emphasis on personal relationship and local networks. Farm Fresh may difficulties if it relies solely on formal contract without building trust with local partners, suppliers, and distribution. Overall, both of the cultural differences do not prevent market entry. They increase the risk of misalignment with consumer expectation. Farm Fresh would need to adapt its marketing and relationship building strategies to reduce cross-cultural risks.
Thank you for your sharing regarding the cross-cultural risk. Next, we are now joined by Dr. Nur Aisha from the Faculty of Business and Economics in University Malaya. Doctor, would you mind telling us what country-level risks should Farm Fresh be most concerned about before entering the market?
Thank you for having me today. So when we look at Bolivia, it's important to assess risks that come from the country's other characteristics, especially those related to infrastructure, geography, and market conditions that could impact operations. So the first one is infrastructure risk is a major concern that Bolivia's connection is limited and often poorly maintained, especially in rural and mountainous areas. Some key roads can take 3 to 7 days to reach major cities like La Paz due to bad weather and lack of reach, make it difficult for Farm Fresh to deliver dairy product on time. Since dairy products require fast and reliable delivery, delays in transportation may affect product freshness and increase transportation costs. This creates a higher risk for farm fresh, which focuses on quality and freshness. Another risk is Bolivia has limited cold chain and storage facilities for temperature-sensitive products like dairy. In some parts of Bolivia, refrigeration and modern logistics systems are not well developed. This may require farm fresh to invest more in storage facilities and technology to ensure product quality. Bolivia also faces economic volatility, including inflation and currency pressure, which can increase import costs for packaging, equipment, and feed materials used by farm fresh. This reduces consumer purchasing power and raise operating risk, meaning that farm fresh should expand cautiously and control costs carefully. To conclude all points, while Bolivia offers growth potential, its country characteristics present operational challenges that farm fresh must carefully plan before expanding their business. That's all from me.
Thank you. And now we're joined by Dr. Nurul Hana from Faculty of Economics of University Putra Malaysia to discuss further about the currency risk. How does Bolivia exchange rate system and currency abilities affect the financial risks for farm fresh?
Alright, thank you for the questions. So Bolivia's exchange rate system and currency stability have a mixed impact on the financial risk faced by farm fresh. Bolivia operates under a managed exchange rate system where the Bolivian Boliviano is pegged at around 6.96 to the US dollar. So according to the World Bank and the IMF, this exchange rate has remained stable for several years. This stability helps reduce short-term financial risks, especially for farm fresh products selling activities, as it allows more predictable pricing, revenue planning, and cost control. However, this stability comes with strong government involvement in the currency market. Evidence shows that Bolivia maintains foreign exchange and capital controls to preserve its foreign reserves. This increases financial risk because foreign companies may face difficulties converting local earnings into foreign currency or repatriating profits. For manufacturing or farming activities, the financial risk is higher. Key inputs such as machinery, technology, and livestock are often priced in US dollars, while revenue is earned in Bolivianos. If Bolivia's managed system comes under pressure and the exchange rate is adjusted, farm fresh could face high costs and increased financial exposure. So in summary, while Bolivia's currency stability lowers short-term volatility risk, the controlled exchange rates system creates moderate financial risk, making Bolivia more suitable for limited or gradual expansion rather than heavy long-term investment.
Thank you, Dr. Hana, for your insight. And for my next question is, what commercial risks might farm fresh face when operating in Bolivia's dairy industry? To answer that question, we are now joined by Dr. Haikal.
Thank you, Arisa. Earlier this morning, all the board directors from Farm Fresh had been informed about the possibilities of losses or failure that might incur if Farm Fresh expanded to Bolivia. Some of this risk is detrimental to be taken by Farm Fresh in order to operate in Bolivia. In terms of profitability, there's proven to be imbalance in price-cost equilibrium. That's either more towards the cost side, which clearly indicate losses. This is due to the macroeconomic pressure that Bolivia needs to endure, such as inflation, foreign exchange shortage, and fiscal deficit, which largely affect import costs and pricing strategies. Next, Farm Fresh also needs to know how big their customer base are before deciding the next best step. Bolivia is a small population country compared to other regional neighbors, with a large low to middle income citizens. And also, they are very highly sensitive to the price changes, especially for food products. Therefore, in order to execute this operation, Farm Fresh are forced to lower the sales volume and shrinking their profit margin. From operating and distribution point of view, Bolivia are known to have weak infrastructure, such as roads, cold storage, and logistics. One of the common concerns is the transportation costs. Bolivia has dramatic elevation change, such as endless mountains that is over 4,000 meters above the sea levels, lowland plains in the east, and valleys in the middle. To overcome this, FarmFresh requires powerful vehicle for logistics that leads to higher fuel consumption and maintenance, which then again adding additional costs on top of it. To summarize it all, FarmFresh have to know that by operating in Bolivia, they will encounter lower than expected sales, reduced profit margins, and higher operating costs.
Thank you, Doctor, for your insight. Taking into account the cultural, country, currency, and commercial risks we've discussed today, would you recommend FarmFresh to enter the Bolivian market?
Assalamualaikum and thank you for the question. Taking into account the cross-cultural, country, currency and commercial risks that have been discussed, I would recommend a conditional go decision for FarmFresh entry into Bolivia. From a cross-cultural perspective, the risk is manageable as dairy products are commonly consumed and already aligns well with family-oriented and urban lifestyle. This suggests that consumer acceptance is achievable with appropriate localization. However, when we look at country and currency risks, these are relatively higher, particularly due to political uncertainty and exchange rate concerns. These factors make high commitment investments such as manufacturing or farming too risky at this stage. In terms of commercial risk, although the market is price sensitive and infrastructure remains a challenge, there is still moderate potential for differentiated nutrition focused RTD milk products. Therefore, Bolivia is not suitable for heavy investment, but it is suitable for low-risk market entry. In conclusion, FarmFresh should enter Bolivia cautiously through exporting RTD milk, allowing the company to test market demand while minimizing financial and operational exposure. Thank you.
Thank you for your insight, Dr. Adam. And now we are approaching to the last part of our discussion today. We are now joined again by Dr. Rita Aryani. And so, if Bolivia is considered a viable market, what would be the most appropriate entry strategy for FarmFresh?
Okay, for that question, I can say that based on the overall risk assessment of Bolivia, FarmFresh should adopt a joint venture entry strategy with a local dairy partner. Exporting is not a suitable option for FarmFresh because Bolivia imposed import tariff on food product, faces currency volatility and has logistical challenges due to its landlocked geographical position. In addition, dairy products are highly perishable, making long-distance exporting inefficient and risky. On the other hand, a fully owned foreign direct investment (FDI) would expose FarmFresh to high political, regulatory, and cultural risks, particularly in a developing economy where government policies and business regulation may change. By forming a joint venture, FarmFresh can produce and process dairy product locally, reduce exposure to trade barriers and exchange rate risk, and benefit from the local partners' knowledge or consumer preference, distribution networks, and regulatory requirements. Therefore, a joint venture provides FarmFresh with a balanced, risk mitigating, and sustainable market entry strategy for expanding its dairy manufacturing and farming operation in Bolivia.
In conclusion, our evaluation today suggests a conditional go decision where market entry is possible and the provided risks are carefully managed and strategic controls are in place. That concludes today's edition of Malaysia Business Insight. I'm Siti Noaisa binti Mahizan and thank you for watching.